I try not to remember the woods. I've been wanting to tell this story for a while now, but I wasn't sure where to put it. A story I read a while ago brought me out of my mental safe space and made me remember the woods. I really try not to do such a thing, and having been born with the willpower of an ox, I'm normally successful. I spend most of my days engulfed in work for 3 people, and I goof off on Reddit in between. This keeps my mind occupied during the day, and by the time I'm ready to sleep, I'm so exhausted that I'm out in seconds. Prior to this event, me and the woods had no issues. Please know this is not an attempt to build an audience to promote a book, nor is it an exercise in creative writing. I own a business and have zero interest in writing past getting my point across or relaying a story to those around the world who might be interested. For some reason, it is important for me that you understand that. Prior to this event, me and the woods had no issues. Nothing could scare me. I could sleep anywhere and I had no problem being in the wilderness alone, even after dark. So, several years ago, a friend invited me to go camping in a national forest with a promise that he'd take care of everything. I was burned out from work and agreed, said goodbye to my wife and kids, and was on the road the same day. We planned to camp out Friday night and possibly Saturday, depending on how we were feeling. The minor details are wholly unimportant, but we put the tent up, had a few drinks, and went to sleep the first night after dining on hot dogs and potato chips. Saturday morning, we decided to go exploring. We hit a public trail and we were just enjoying nature for a bit, walking and talking and mostly enjoying the time away from our usual responsibilities. There were other people here, not a lot, but we spent most of our hike behind a group of 3 and passed a couple of families and hikers that were walking slower or had stopped to enjoy nature at some point. My point is that this was not some isolated trail 30 miles in the woods. Signs of civilization were all around us. About an hour into our hike, we decided to head off trail and check out the woods. Maybe we'd stumble across some snakes or other wildlife, or just find a cool spot to hang out and eat our lunch. So we took a hard right and headed into the woods. There was not much underbrush in the area, so walking was easy. We were still talking about our lives, but now instead of following a trail, we were stopping to roll logs or kick around a pile of leaves, looking for signs of life. Sometimes you'll find a mice in such places, or interesting looking bugs. I've even found salamander eggs that were near hatching before. Pretty neat stuff. While we were doing this, we were venturing deeper and deeper into the woods, in a straight line. No, we didn't get lost. That is not where this is going. I assure you that when the time came, we made it back to the trail without any physical issues, hung a left, and carried our asses back to the campground to retrieve the truck and get the hell out of there. We'd even pack up his tent or any of our belongings when we left. What we saw that day has caused me to avoid the woods, no matter what. I don't even like driving down wooded streets these days, and I hesitate to visit friends that have more than a few trees in their yards. I know it's irrational, but it helps to keep me in a good place mentally, so fuck it. But to get back to the story, because we had no mission or plan past enjoying nature. We were walking very slowly and not at all at many points. I tell you this so you know that we were ridiculously close to the trail, to other people going about their lives, to a sense of normalcy. A mere 45 minutes later, we stop at a nice and quiet spot to eat a few snacks. My friend, Cody is his name by the way, sat down on a falling tree to dig around in his pack. While he was doing this, I walked a few dozen yards to take a piss when I get a really odd feeling that I can only describe as dread. I'm sure you all have experienced it in some form, but it tends to happen to me in the woods, although not extreme, fairly often. The goosebumps, the feeling that something is off, but you can't really put your finger on it. It usually makes my bowels clench and makes me feel like I need to take a shit. I never really wondered if I was unique in this feeling. I just assumed that it happened to everyone. Not being a believer in the supernatural or anything of the sort, I always chalked it up to my instincts or subconscious warning me of danger. Maybe my eyes passed a venomous snake. But I didn't notice it because I was lost in thought. Or maybe there were sounds of an animal wandering around that I didn't pay any attention to, that my subconscious processed and wanted to notify me of. Hell, maybe it was something as simple as a hole in the ground that I might trip in. Whatever the cause, I always thought this feeling was pretty damn cool. So I finished pissing and I'm just turning around to head back towards Cody when my mind screams at me, "Listen, you fucking idiot, don't you hear that?" And I did. I had heard it for a good minute or so now, but it was such a normal sound that I didn't process that there might be anything wrong with it. It was not the sounds of bugs or birds or anything else you'd expect in the woods. For some reason, it was especially quiet on that front. It was the sound of young children giggling and talking and making other noises that children make. When I strained to listen more closely, I also noticed a very faint buzzing noise. Fucking weird. I am walking back towards Cody at this point, and for the first time since I was a small child, I got the feeling that something was behind me, and that I should move faster. Do you fucking hear that? I laughed my ass off, partly at myself for getting spooked, partly at the incredulous tone in Cody's voice when he asked the question, partly from belief that I wasn't going crazy, and partly from nervous energy. Cody had his head tilted in that listening pose with one eye closed. It sounds like kids are playing about 200 feet into the woods, but why in the hell would they be out there? I suggested there might be a campsite a little further in, but Cody informed me that it was all woods, at least for several miles. This made us question each other and ourselves on whether we had gotten turned around and were hearing kids on the trail. Nope. We both agreed that there was no damn way. My subconscious already knew that though. I always take mental pictures when in the woods, and I was 100% positive that the trail was in a straight line in the opposite direction of the sounds. I didn't mention the buzzing. I didn't want him to think I was freaked out or something. I started walking towards the sounds. Cody followed. We didn't have to discuss it, but we heard noises and wanted to know what they were from. But 300 feet in, I wasn't so sure anymore. For starters, the ground turned soggy and was getting soggier the further we went. Second, the sounds seemed to now be coming from all around us somehow. They were still faint, like voices in the distance, but they were somehow close. Almost like we were listening to a recording on a very low volume. Third, I fucking tripped and nearly fell. And the thing that tripped me? The seat of a goddamn seesaw. It was sticking out of the muck as if a pile of mud was dumped on it, and the other end was under there somewhere in the down position. I didn't really recognize it as a seesaw at the time, but it was. The handlebars were barely visible as if they were resting on top of the mud, and a little further down, the part I tripped on was a seat on a fucking stick. The handlebars were barely visible as if they were resting on top of the mud, and a little further down, the part I tripped on was a seat on a fucking stick. Seeing it instantly increased my dread tenfold, and while I didn't know why at the time, it was because it looked brand new. Seeing it instantly increased my dread tenfold, and while I didn't know why at the time, it was because it looked brand new. The paint was solid. There was a padded seat. It looked like it was plucked out of a catalog and jammed into a swamp immediately. Fourth, what in the hell is that fucking buzzing? Now it sounds like thousands of pissed off wasps are just buzzing over our heads. Fifth, why am I walking in a damn swamp now? It's hot as hell, hasn't rained in ages, and the ground was solid 300 feet back, but my shoes are now covered in this gray goop. For some godforsaken reason, we kept walking. To the right, about 20 yards away, in a low spot, the yellow head of a plastic horse was staring at me. It was one of those spring toys you see at playgrounds. Cody pointed out that to the left of us in the distance was the top 2 feet of a swing set. The chains of all 3 were at 45-degree angles, 2 in one direction and 1 in the other, almost as if they were in use when a dump truck of mud materialized around them. Directly in front of us, and where Cody was headed, were stairs. And as we approached, I recognized that 1, the mud is up to my ankles now. 2, it's the top 5 steps of a slide. Cody was about 15 feet in front of me. I wasn't really interested in the slide or the woods anymore. I saw him reach out to grab the handrail and heard something I will never forget. A young voice called out in front of us, behind us, and all around us and in my bones. "Hey, mister, what are you doing up here?" Fuck Cody. I did a 180 and ran. When I reached the trail and dared to glance behind me, I saw that Cody had decided that running was a grand fucking idea as he was right on my heels. You know the rest of the story. Most of it, anyhow. Hang a left, get in the truck, carry our asses home. The only other thing of interest I can add is the answer Cody gave to my question of, "Did you see it?" Yup. Fucking seesaw was up on the other end, and the chains to the swings were in completely different locations when we first saw them. These days, I try not to think about the woods,